Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video I'll be discussing briefly the DC Comics Wildstorm trade paperback Superman Gen 13. Written by Adam Hughes, with art by Lee Bermejo and John Nyberg, colors by Major, DeMagmalou, and Hannon, and letters by Mike Heisler. Published as a 3-issue arc in 2000, with this collected trade coming out in 2001. Going into this largely unfamiliar with the Gen 13 side of things, it would be hard for me to speak to how well written or embodied the characters of Caitlin Fairchild, Freefall, Burnout, Rainmaker, and Grunge, respectively, really are to their usual comic book presence. But with the exception of Fairchild herself, none of them struck me as very impressive from the get-go, I have to say. They're all seemingly older than teenagers, yet are grouped together as if they're all whining kids for a field trip, which they all take turns choosing their next destination for, and it just happens to fall to Fairchild herself this time out, who chooses Metropolis, as she's ever the Superman fangirl. This sends her collective of 21 Jump Street-like heroes reeling and unhappy. In fact, they complain the whole way to Metropolis via trains and buses, and never once let you forget how upset they are about having to go there. And even upon reaching the great metropolitan city, as things start off with a crash boom bang, none of these characters are in any way immediately endearing to me. And the gist of the overall story is that Fairchild gets knocked for a loop in her opening to Metropolis, which results in amnesia, and thanks to Superman's concern, as it was he who was thrown into her, he leaves his cape draped over her before departing to take on another foe, and leaving her to assume that she has to be none other than Supergirl. And so the ragtag team of nearly unlikable youths are left having to seek out Superman's friends at the Daily Planet in the hopes of finding Fairchild, who goes missing, and basically traipses around Metropolis, creating more havoc than she's intending to help with her team, Superman, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen, all just a few steps behind her. It's these exchanges between the Man of Steel and each of Fairchild's teammates, one by one, that saves them all respectively to me, as when things start out, they are all wholly unimpressed with and making fun of Superman, yet each gets to see Superman's abilities and presence up close, and thusly grow to have a greater respect for him, seeing him in a new light, and that change is one that translates well as a reader to their characters overall, as they become much more palatable after those events. Of course, you can't have a faux Supergirl roving Metropolis without the genuine article finding out about it and coming calling with fists at the ready. And by the end, things are, for the most part, set right once again. The story, thus, is not a bad one, offering not only a change of perspective for the Gen 13 irregulars, but also a scope into the mindset of Superman himself, who is really very troubled by the aspect that kids these days think he's some kind of a joke, that he's too stiff and too goody two-shoes. Adam Hughes manages to humanize him in that way, very effectively. The art overall translates the story well enough, but is not my particular taste, especially when you see the alternate cover art showcased at the back of the book, which is a bit closer to the norms of the Gen 13 books and some of the art of the Superman comic books at the time. I won't venture to guess why there was such a departure from the fantastical comic book style and such an overemphasis and dependence on the realism depicted in this one, but I think some of the characters' appearances may have suffered for it in places as a result, adding also to the fact that I'm just not sure if these are supposed to be teenagers or adults the whole time. But all in all, I'd say, especially for Superman fans willing to stomach a little of the disrespect thrown his way at first, it's definitely worth the read, as it's really about growth and gaining a better appreciation and perspective on things in time. I'll be rating Superman Gen 13 a 3 3/4 out of 5. And otherwise, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of Superman Gen 13, if you've ever read it, or if you'll be picking it up. And otherwise, I'll catch you all later. Peace.